Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. So many ways to invest in real estate. Today, we're going to explore an excellent niche that is both profitable and heart-centered. It's social capitalism with a twist, and we've got a couple of great guests today on the Real Estate Guys radio program. Are you achieving everything you want in life? What if there was a time-tested way for you to get all you've dreamed of? The most successful people in life set goals and keep themselves accountable. But how? The good news is that it's not rocket science. You too can learn the skills and unleash the motivation that will create success in your life. And now is the time. Hi, this is Robert Helms, and I'd like to personally invite you to attend Create Your Future, the 2022 Goals Retreat, January 7th to 9th in beautiful Lake Las Vegas, Nevada. This unique weekend event has been called phenomenal, inspirational, and life-changing by the thousands of people that have attended. Hear from some of them and find out more at realestateguysradio.com under events or call 888-489-7723 extension 18 to reserve your spot. Get your life back on track physically, spiritually, and financially. Attend the live in-person 2022 Goals Retreat on the second weekend of the new year. Click events at realestateguysradio.com to register. This is no dress rehearsal. Live the life you were meant to. Visit realestateguysradio.com or call 888-489-7723 extension 18 today. Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. With me, as usual, look, it's our co-host, financial strategist, Russell Gray.
Hey, Robert.
There's not just one way to use real estate. There's all kinds of different uses for real estate. I mean, one of the longest running uses for real estate is agriculture. And of course, people lived on the land, and pretty soon they figured out they could build structures, and that was more comfortable. And here we are, all these years later, buying houses and apartments and bowling alleys. But today we're going to talk about a unique aspect of real estate. We can't say that very often, right? What's a new use for real estate? And even though today's use isn't new, we're going to approach it from a very different way.
Well, I mean, renting out property has been around for a long, long time. Renting out rooms has been around for a long, long time, whether it's hotels, boarding houses, all kinds of different ways. Now today, Airbnb, that's new, but it's just a variation on a theme. Residential assisted living, we've talked about in the past, where you take a certain demographic and you provide them a service that they need, and you put several different residents in one property. Our friends Josh and Lisa Lannon had great success with recovery homes, where they would take a McMansion and turn it into a place where addicts could come and go through a rehab process. So there's a lot of creative ways to use real estate. And if you think about being an entrepreneur, ultimately what you have to do is look at, what does the market need? What is going on in the world and what's missing? And how can we step in and fill that gap and help people in a tangible way through a creative use of real estate? And that's what we're going to be talking about today.
And then what's exciting is that the income metrics also change. So what we're going to talk about today is unique ways to share housing. The very first property that I was involved with before I owned property, I was the on-site residential manager at a 48-unit apartment building a block from the university I went to. And I was at first assistant manager and then became manager. And all of the units in that building were set up so that each person had their own bedroom, but they shared a kitchen and a bathroom with another person. So that's a way to share housing. The next property I acquired was a 7-unit building where there were 3 bathrooms and 7 units. So you didn't have your own bathroom, but there wasn't just a single bathroom. They had a women's, a men's, and then one anybody could use. And so there's lots of different ways to share housing. For a while, I owned a building that a sorority was in. And they were a master lease to me, meaning they just wrote one check, which was pretty awesome. But they had individual gals living in different rooms and rooming together. And I don't know where they were or how they did it. That was up to them. But the point is they were sharing the housing. And for that, I got a premium. So today we want to get your mind around this idea that it doesn't necessarily mean one house, one tenant.
Yeah, when I was in high school, my father and my grandmother, my dad needed to find a way to take care of my grandmother, but he didn't have enough money just to support her. So what he did was he bought a house, a multi-room house, just a 4 or 5 bedroom house, whatever it was, in the Santa Clara County. This was before it was Silicon Valley. And what she was running was a home where she took care of people. It was kind of like a halfway house. I mean, these were people who weren't really able to live independently. They needed kind of a house mom to look after them, to cook, to make sure they took their meds, to get them to their doctor appointments and whatnot. And she ran a couple of these different homes, and that's how she supported herself all the way through her retirement. She was widowed twice. And so that's how she supported herself. But the concept really is kind of, we call it the pizza principle. Multifamily forever has typically generated more rent per unit, if you will, than single family houses, which is why a lot of people like multifamily. But the thing that's interesting about this is you can take a single family home and turn it into a multi-unit property. And that's a concept of shared housing. However, whatever the purpose is, the point is that each room ends up being rented out, and you get a greater percentage of rent for that slice of the property than you would for the entire property or the entire pizza.
Well, it is similar to multifamily, except that it usually takes place in a single residence. And there's lots of uses for this. You know, you mentioned residential assisted living, and of course, what Josh and Lisa are doing, but it's even beyond that. There's another friend of ours who's in the UK. And what she does, she and her husband, they buy apartments. They call them lofts, I believe, that they have 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and common area in the middle. And they don't rent the college students, which is the first place my mind went when I heard the model. They rent the folks that have just come out of college. So young adults making their way in the world, 4 of them live together. And what happens is, in this case, they have their own bedroom and bathroom. And, you know, housing is expensive in London. And what happens is they each rent their room, their bathroom, and they have kind of a common area, which brings the cost down, but it also makes it more social.
Yeah. You know, you think about it again, meeting the needs of the demographic. You've got these kids that come out of college and they're kind of used to living in dorms. They're used to living on top of each other. It's not foreign to them. They don't have a lot of money, so they have a need. And so they're willing to accept a certain way of living in order to bridge the gap from being a student to being a fully sufficient adult. And again, in a marketplace where real estate is high priced and it's very expensive to get your foot in the door, this is that bridge. And it reminds me again of my grandmother's situation, because sometimes these people would come in and they would make it to a point where they learned how to live outside of wherever they were when they were, under full-time care. And then they went out where they were kind of under part-time care. And then eventually they were able to get out on their own, or some of them were. So again, these are needs that exist in the marketplace. I think any entrepreneur always needs to look at their business, including real estate, and ask themselves, not what do I want, what do I need, what can it do for me, but how can I serve the community and give them something they want, they need, what do I have to work with, and can I price that offering in a way that it makes good business sense, but the market will accept it? And then is it scalable? How much real opportunity is there? And so in an environment where real wages are dropping, in other words, if you think about the idea that even though wages may be going up, the cost of living is going up even faster, you've got people who are going to be struggling. We've been big fans on this show for a decade about the idea that we probably want to concentrate on affordable markets, low tax states, business-friendly states. We want to focus on properties and property price points that are reasonably affordable, because our bet has been that people will flee the high tax, difficult to do business in, expensive places and move towards those more affordable places. And so real estate is not an asset class. It is not a market. And even within real estate, there's all kinds of different niches and a lot of opportunity for creativity. It's an extremely inefficient marketplace, which means that if you're smart and you're diligent, you can find little crevices of opportunity. And then once you develop that at a high level, you can exploit it. You create systems. We've got a friend that does Airbnb at a high level. He's got it very systematized. He goes out and buys properties. Gene Guarino does a great job in residential assisted living. He's got that thing figured out. And today's guests have a unique niche figured out. So I'm excited about hearing what they have to say.
So where is the opportunity in shared housing? That's what we're going to find out today on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
Need help with your real estate investment portfolio? Check out the resources page at realestateguysradio.com.
Hey, it's Robert Helms. Thanks so much for listening to the show today. I want to personally invite you to come see an amazing real estate market that combines excellent cash flow, offshore diversification, and what we affectionately call lifestyle investing. Come join me December 3rd through 6th in the beautiful country of Belize. The Real Estate Guys have been bringing investors to Belize for more than 15 years now, and our discovery trip is designed to show you the market like nobody else can. Sure, Belize is breathtakingly beautiful. The people are wonderful. And wait till you taste the food. But the real opportunity is the real estate investment potential. Demand for offshore real estate has skyrocketed since the coronavirus shutdown, and with retirees looking for lifestyle, the work-from-home workforce able to be productive from afar, and tourism coming back strong, now may be the perfect time to consider Belize as a place to diversify risk in your investment portfolio. There's all types of opportunity in Belize when it comes to real estate investing, including both long-term and short-term rentals, commercial and retail triple net properties, business opportunities, land acquisition, development, agriculture, and more. And as the only country in Latin America with English as its official language, it's easy to understand the law. Property rights are strong and contracts are in English. And in Ambergris Caye, a unique situation exists where demand for rentals continues to outstrip supply, creating a compelling environment for investors. So come see for yourself. Join me in December in Ambergris Caye, Belize, as we study the market, learn about the sustainable drivers, and tour lots of beautiful real estate. And like all of our field trips, there are no properties for sale during the weekend. Rather, you'll meet lots of local providers that will help educate you about the market so that you can follow up with them after the trip if the market is interesting to you. You've heard about Belize and the Real Estate Guys for all these years. Now come see what all the excitement is about. Plus, we'll have lots of time over meals and activities to talk about all things real estate. To get the details, go to the website at realestateguysradio.com and click on events where you'll find the Belize Discovery Trip. Once you register, you'll get information about our group hotel rates, as well as full travel details. So join me in Belize December 3rd to 6th. It's a beautiful country with lots of amazing possibilities, and the only thing missing is you. Go to realestateguysradio.com under events, and I look forward to seeing you in beautiful Belize.
Hi, this is Kim Kiyosaki. I'm the author of Rich Woman, and you are listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program, heard every weekend on this great radio station all the time at realestateguysradio.com. We're talking today about shared housing, a different use for real estate. And in segment one, Russ and I have pretty much exhausted everything we know about the topic. But good news is our guests are right center in this niche. Let's say hello to Frank and Sherri Candelario. Hi, guys.
Hi, nice to be here.
So great to be here. Thank you.
Hey, it's great to have you on the program. And this is such a unique niche. Tell us about how you found shared housing and why it appeals to you.
It's a personal story. I adopted a little girl from Russia. And when she was about 14, she started having problems with addiction. I didn't realize it at the time. I'm a biotech patent counsel. I'm working, homeschooling her in the afternoons, and everything seemed fine. She went from alcohol to hard drugs pretty quickly. And because I had a medical background, I believed in the system. I believed in recovery hospitals. I believed in physicians. And I started taking her to programs and all over the country, from Seattle, where we lived, to Nevada, to Texas. In fact, I put her in Texas for a year. And it didn't matter how much money I spent on the treatment. My background is as a medical scientist from a medical school. I actually wrote research papers in the area of opioids, the principal component of the drug she was taking. And I was naive. And I think if I was naive, what about all the other parents? When they told us, my daughter and I, that she needed to go to a sober home after treatment, and this was happening about the time she was 18, I trusted the system. But what I didn't realize is the system needed to be wrecked, it needed to be burned down, because my precious daughter would be put in a home. Now, sober homes have been around for 50 years. We believed in what they were saying. They said she had to be there full time. But what we found out is that the system of sober homes, as we discovered it, was that for any transgression, whether she missed chores, was late for curfew, and God forbid she relapsed, which she did, because that's common, she would be put out on the curb in 15 minutes without her belongings. And that didn't happen just once or twice, not just in Seattle, but it happened a dozen times. And sometimes I would be called by the manager of the home, who had been so kind to me, to let me know my cashier's check hadn't arrived. And so I'd make sure the money was there, only to find out my daughter, Kate, had been removed 2 days later. And like a lot of young people with addiction, Kate didn't call home. She was afraid to let me know that she had failed me, but she hadn't failed me. It was a disease that had taken over. And she would disappear. She'd become homeless. And this went on for years. In fact, Frank and I got married in 2014. And on our first date, when he was asking about my kids, I was able to tell him about my biological kids. And I said, I have a daughter who's homeless somewhere in Seattle. By this time, she's 21. And Frank shared with me, let's go look for her, because he liked to feed people on the streets of Seattle. And he cared about human beings. And we found her under a bridge one night with 40 other kids between the ages of 18 and 21. And they were foster kids. They were kids who left abusive homes. And they were also kids who had been thrown out of recovery homes. And we finally got her treatment again in California. And it was interesting. This time I found a home in a great neighborhood, very expensive. And I found out the woman who owned the home owned the real estate. She owned these 3 beautiful homes in San Diego. And Frank and I said, we can't let this happen to other families. We're going to change this 50-year system. We're going to open up a prototype home in Seattle, expensive Seattle, and we're going to change how this is regulated. No human being will ever be put on the curb no matter what. And if they fail, we're going to get them treatment. We're going to do whatever we can to end housing insecurity. And that was in 2015. And we remodeled a single family home. And we found out in our zoning, we could put 9 people in there. And lo and behold, we also found out there were state vouchers to pay for each bed we could put in the home. And we looked at each other and we said, if we can get $5,000 a month, and this was 2015, on a $1,500 a month mortgage on this home, let's buy a whole lot more and let's create a system that we think is foolproof and bulletproof. And what we found is that by putting people in single family homes in great neighborhoods, they recovered. They did better. We started with women who were getting custody of their kids back. Then we moved on to men. Then we moved on to veterans. And before we knew it, we had millions of dollars of real estate that was cash flowing. Right now, about $8,000 gross rents a month. And people are doing great. And they're taking care of the homes. And people often ask us, how do we do this? We're managing this from 2,500 miles away.
Well, the delightful thing is Sherri and I were not from this world, okay? We have never had addiction issues. But I'll tell you, we learned a lot about the addiction industry from Kate. Many of the clean and sober homes, God bless them, they try hard, but a lot of them are like the wild, wild west. Anyone can have one. They're unregulated, and some were run by not so nice people. And it was just a money factor. And Sherri and I found the 2 wonderful things about opening up a home. One is that we wake up to grateful people who are succeeding. The Department of Corrections, after 6 months of giving us contracts and paying us per bed with a tremendous cash flow, said there's something unusual going on here. Most people who earn early release in the prisons have a 70% recidivism rate back to prison because they end up in some of these homes where I want to be nice to everybody, but they're just not ideal. So Sherri and I said, we can do better. We bought a house. We use our own common sense and compassion. And sure enough, we're able to buy beautiful homes in safe neighborhoods, in appreciating neighborhoods. And one day we woke up and says, holy cow, we're making a tremendous cash flow. Our home is in an area that is appreciating at a tremendous rate. This is a good business model.
Yeah.
And we did it so we can serve, less fortunate people. But the plus side is truly, it's an amazing business model that's helped us grow into millions of dollars of real estate and lots of cash flow.
Well, it's a great story because of where it comes from. It's not just about the ROI, although obviously there is good ROI and you guys have developed some pretty cool ways for that to happen, but because of this personal story. So thank you for sharing that with us. So it kind of builds the context. It'd be easy to say, well, if you put more people in a house, you get more rent, but it's the why behind it. And I think the system part of it is so critical. And it's similar to residential assisted living. You have a single family home and you have elderly folks generally that need some help. And because of that, you need to bring in caregivers and the like. And so we've talked on this show about the fact that the business of residential assisted living can be separate from the real estate. One of the most important elements in your system, though, is your heart for the people. So talk about taking it from recognizing the need and it being an abstract idea to today having a system for you to be able to replicate this.
It started immediately. When we put up the first home, we had actually been contacted by the Veterans Administration, and they shared with us that they would provide people in need for our home. And when it came time to fill the home, we called them up and we said, hey, house is ready. Like most new real estate investors, our rehab had taken a little bit more money and took longer than it should have. And they said, we only have one person. And so Frank went and knocked on the doors of the housing authorities and basically said, we want to do a shared housing model because we believe this will work and we want to work with people in addiction. And we were contacted immediately by the Department of Corrections. We had no idea that there are billions of dollars for people who have been incarcerated. And what we also found is that 25% of the people that are incarcerated had committed felonies while they were under the influence of drugs. There's drug courts that catch these people and try to prevent them from going to prison. And we knocked on the door of the King County Courthouse in King County, Washington, and gave them a flyer about our homes and said, can we house for you? And when you talked about your fixed contract, we received a fixed contract for $30,000 a month to house people, whether the beds were filled or not, because people started recognizing that institutional treatment doesn't work. And when people are coming through any type of crisis, because we're not just working with people in recovery, we're working with disadvantaged women, kids aging out of the foster system, vets who served our country and they have no family left because they're in their 70s. And we found all of these people liked the zen and tranquility of a single family home with structure and rules, with a curfew where visitors aren't allowed. And they took care of the homes for us. So, this knowledge came pretty quickly. We went from 1 to 4 homes within a year. And these were expensive Seattle homes. And we realized we're getting double to triple gross rents on this, but it's also giving us the opportunity to either expand our business or we could do something new with this. And what we decided is we wanted to change the whole world. I remember in 2016, Frank asked me, we were doing New Year's resolutions. He said, what's your resolution? I said, I think we need to end homelessness in America. And he said, well, that's lofty. And I said, no, this shared housing thing that we're doing, I think it would work for all kinds of people. So we went from that to, we've got to write a curriculum and teach this and speak about it. So within 6 months, we were on stages everywhere for real estate investors because we recognized, Frank, we were in Las Vegas, what was the question you asked?
So the idea is catching on. And right in the middle of a big speech on a big stage, Sherri and I stopped and we said, we got a question for everybody, 500 investors learning how to buy real estate, right? And we said, how many people in this room have someone in their lives who they love and care about, who is struggling with addiction? 70% of the people raised their hands. 70%. So all of a sudden you see neighborhoods that are filled with people who have empathy for what we do. Our neighbors love us. And I'll tell you why. Because yes, we're their next door neighbors, but we also have a good neighbor policy. And for us to be able to be in their safe, beautiful neighborhood, the return is that they don't have to have one of those houses where people come and go all night, make noise, strangers here and there. We are so loved because again, 70% of all our neighbors have someone that they can relate it to. So we're well loved in our neighborhoods. We get to buy beautiful homes in safe neighborhoods, even in expensive markets. And that's kind of what happened. It just happened. And then we started mentoring students around the country. We found the exact same thing, the same opportunities all around the country. We've had students open up houses in probably about 10 different states now.
Well, that's super exciting because if you just do as much as you can do, you can make a difference. But when you start to bring other people along, it gets really exciting. And as you've already illustrated, it's not just one need. We've talked about some different examples of the way that people can put together these types of homes where people live that have something in common. Talk about some of the other things that maybe your students have done in terms of their target market.
Well, one of the things that's been super exciting, we buy our real estate as for-profit, but they have a side nonprofit 501c3.
Okay.
And so you can take in massive amounts of income and funnel it through the 501c3. And you can get donations of furniture and goods. I had a phone call yesterday randomly from a group in Seattle that said, if you want anything for your homes at any time, it doesn't matter, let us know. We're connected, we'll get it for you. In fact, in 2020, at the worst of the pandemic, our business doubled. Our short-term rentals were shut down because we weren't allowed to have people in the condominium building, but our single-family homes doubled. In fact, one of the judges, we're known in Washington State, we're Kate's House Foundation, we're known as Kate's. One of the judges for drug court called and said, we want every last bed you have. And they were paying us nearly $900 a bed. They still are.
2 beds to a bedroom.
As many as we could fit in the homes. 2 days later, the Department of Corrections called the housing specialist. They said, we want to get our vulnerable people out of prison. We've got some older men. How many beds do you have? And, being entrepreneurs, we said, what are you paying? Because in the past, they only paid $500 a bed. I said, you got to meet drug court's rate. So they did. And, we moved from that to realizing that the model that we created was so stellar that we should bring national certification standards to our state. Because back in 2012, there were a bunch of reputable housing operators in New York who said, we've got to change this industry and set up standards. And even though they set up high standards, nobody was embracing them. Now everybody is embracing them.
They're embracing them because the civic leaders and politicians are realizing that, they weren't making a lot of progress on addiction, right? You can treatment people, but if you don't have the right housing afterwards, quality housing, you lose a lot of it. So finally, politicians and leaders are realizing that's the missing piece. The last 2 big contracts we got were based on the fact that we have the national certification. Imagine, it's almost like I used to be a camp director, right? And there's a thing called camping association, right? And they come and they monitor, make sure everything is safe, make sure everything works right. Not a lot of overly cumbersome things, but that's what they're doing in the housing industry. And it's making it better for everyone. And Sherri and I are on the forefront. If you look on our website, you'll see us with the governor of the state of Washington saying, we need similarity between all the houses, commonality, we have to be safe. And for instance, fiduciary responsibility. Sherri and I never touch the money. So can you see what's happening? There is this wave going across the country. Every state has an affiliate, and they're all realizing that we want to do business with people who took the time to make their house up to national standards.
One thing we realized from day one, my daughter Kate was a Russian orphan with depression. And when her depression was treated, she didn't abuse substances. But the housing back in 2015, actually even to this day, would refuse to allow her to have her medication at the home. So one of the first requirements when she walked in was you can't have your antidepressants. So when we started in 2015, we said carte blanche, if it's prescribed by your doctor, you may stay on it. And then our next big step was that we know there's medications that stop addiction in its tracks. And that was an area of research I did 20 years ago. And medically assisted treatments are now being accepted. When we were the first ones to say we want to do this in our homes, we had a lot of people telling us we were wrong. But now MAT homes to treat addiction so people can go to their jobs, have medication to help their symptoms are accepted throughout any regulated homes. So, it's just we're trying to be the bearers of the message. If you want to have a recovery home, you can cherry pick your residents. They'll be on medication so they're not relapsing in the home. And what we also found, all our residents come with teams of counselors and therapists and specialists and job specialists helping them. So we're just landlords. We're not in there helping our people. We may visit them and say hi, but we are just landlords.
And I'm going to tell you right now that one of the greatest benefits your listeners will be fascinated about, because when you run a home like we have, nationally certified, recognized by the state of Washington, level 2 recovery home, there is no landlord-tenant relationship. The fees that are paid for them to be in our house is for a clean and sober recovery housing program. Therefore, those problems that many landlords have right now of people not paying rent does not exist in our world.
Our guests are Sherri and Frank Candelaria. We're talking about shared housing and more when we come back. Plus, we'll play real estate trivia next. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Elms.
Live nationwide, you're listening to the Real Estate Guys. Find out more at realestateguysradio.com.
In uncertain times like this, it's great to know there are 2 things you can always count on: high demand for affordable single-family homes to live in, and Terry Kerr's amazing Memphis team at Mid-South Home Buyers to find, fix, and manage the next addition to your recession-resistant real estate portfolio. The Memphis market is logistics and distribution dynamo with an economic engine that's essential to moving goods and critical supplies all over the United States. Quality rehab, proven profitable property management, affordable rents, and solid ROI make turnkey property investing through Terry's team a dream when it matters most. To learn more about Memphis and Mid-South home buyers, send an email to midsouth@realestateguysradio.com. That's midsouth@realestateguysradio.com.
Hey, this is Brad Sumrock, and there's something I'm super excited about that's coming down in just a few days. It's the Invest in Apartments Now Challenge. Now is an amazing time with the tax advantages and the interest rates being so low and the demographics that are shifting with more and more people renting. Plus, we're going to have some amazing speakers. We're going to have billionaires. We're going to have people that have invested millions of dollars of their earned income sharing with you how investing in apartments now is moving the needle for them personally. So this is an event that you certainly want to be at. It's free. 5 days, 60 to 90 minutes per day. I'll see you in the Invest in Apartments Now Challenge.
Join the Apartment King, Brad Sumrock, in the free Invest in Apartments Now Challenge. To get the details, send an email to apartmentchallenge@realestateguysradio.com. Discover the world of apartment investing. I'll be there. Will you? Send an email to apartmentchallenge@realestateguysradio.com.
Hi, this is Kevin Harrington, an original shark from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and you're listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show. Registration is underway for our annual Goals Retreat. It's called Create Your Future. It takes place the first full weekend of the new year in beautiful Lake Las Vegas, Nevada. Here's your chance to either invent or reinvent yourself no matter what stage of life you're in. Get all the details on the website at realestateguysradio.com under events. We're talking about heart-centered real estate investing with shared housing. Before we get back to our interview with Frank and Sherri, it's time to play Real Estate Trivia. Your chance to win a prize by knowing today's Real Estate Trivia question. In just a minute, I'll give you the question and you will come up with the answer. And believe it or not, our question has to do with shared housing. The first person that gets the answer right is going to get a brand new book called Persistence, Pivots, and Game Changers, Turning Challenges into Opportunities. The perfect sentiment for today's show. This book has just come out and it's a collection of awesome stories from lots of cool people, including our very own Russell Gray. If you don't win today, you can learn more about the book by sending an email to pivot@realestateguysradio.com. That could be yours if you're the first to know today's real estate trivia question. Last week on the show, we were talking about making the jump from single family to multifamily with Brad Sumrock, and we asked this: how much money comes with every standard set of Monopoly? Well, Parker Brothers prints about $50 billion of Monopoly money every year. But in Monopoly, there is no inflation. Values of the Monopoly game board are the same today as they were in 1935, and each Monopoly game comes with $15,140, which actually gives you enough to buy both Boardwalk and Park Place. Here's our real estate trivia question for this week. One of television's famous shared housing sitcoms, Three's Company, aired for 8 seasons on ABC from 1977 to 1984. Joyce, Chrissy, and Jack lived in an apartment building managed originally by Stanley and Helen Roper. Here's what we want to know: in what real estate market was their apartment located? Yeah, where did Three's Company take place? If you know, or just want to take a guess, send your best guess to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Trivia@realestateguysradio.com. We'll need your name, your mailing address, and the answer to the question. First person that gets it right gets this awesome new book, Persistence, Pivots, and Game Changers. That's today's real estate trivia question. We're talking with Frank and Sherri Candelario about shared housing, and it's a fascinating story. Thanks again for bringing it to the forefront. I think there's a couple of things about it. People hear this idea that I can make more money if I rent out the rooms. Well, that's different than having the heart you guys do to make sure that it works. Because if you're just churning through people that are unsuccessful and being put to the curb, like your daughter was, Sherri, that's very different than having this success rate. And so that does take this knowledge and education. And not everybody that does can teach, but you guys have been able to figure this out. So talk about that side of it. What are the things people need to learn? What are some of the paradigms that you have to break?
So we've learned immediately the house has to be in the right neighborhood, has to be the right kind of house. We buy single family homes that we could sell tomorrow if we chose to, because we're looking for an appreciating asset. But it's critical that we're near services, near bus lines. And we want to be in a neighborhood that we're not concerned that unsavory elements are nearby. So we're plopping right into middle-class neighborhoods. We found early on, I'm a scientist, but I practice patent law as a scientist. So, helped start multiple biotech companies. So we used our legal background to say, how do we get to stay in these neighborhoods? We found out the Fair Housing Act protects us. Addiction is a disability. And even the definition of family in fair housing, up to 5 unrelated people, fits into our definition. And we also learned along the way that there's a huge lobby in Washington for recovery housing. So there are attorneys that use fair housing to make sure it's not just 5 people in the home, but 10, 12, 15, if that's what's needed. And so that we have that in our backyard. And we never went to the zoning department because all we were doing was taking a single family home and putting multiple renters in there. And always
So a couple of things I want to cover there. One is you mentioned earlier that in Washington, there's a limit to the number of people. Now, that's typically true in most states.
Mhm.
And so there's that. And then what kind of changes, if any, do you have to make? We've talked to Gene Guarino about residential assisted living, and often those homes are either modified or built to a great degree to accommodate this. What about in this case?
This is what I love talking about. What we want to do is be able to buy beautiful single family homes with curb appeal. We don't try to lowball people. We don't find out who died yesterday to try, what we do is we find the perfect house in the neighborhood that we know will work. We don't do anything to them. We love to improve them, fencing, casual remodeling, newer kitchen kind of thing. But really all we want is a single husband, wife, 2 kids. We do not want to rent to a husband, wife, 2 kids and a dog in our expensive house we just bought.
Right.
But we sure want to have it ready to sell to a husband, wife, 2 kids, and a dog. That's why many people who tour our houses are fascinated how wonderful the condition they are, because these are grateful people who are so happy to be in a wonderful environment and do well. But the key for us is our business model is we want to own single family homes that didn't have non-code work on it, extra bedrooms in the garage, these weird wings. No, the beautiful thing is, and we do not have the regulations that other industries have. We simply have to have, to get national standards, we'll have an inspection. You got to have handrails, you got to have smoke alarms, really the basics. But, a lot of it's fiduciary responsibility.
So we're taking 4-bedroom homes, that's it, and putting 2 people per bedroom. So that's 8 people to 9 people in a home. So we're not changing the home unless we want it for a real estate play. So sometimes we're buying homes that we can fix up to force some appreciation, but there's nothing required. And for the certification standards, we have to put an exit sign over the door and a little map and make sure we have smoke alarms and fire extinguishers. But other than that, the certification standards are involved, in the fact that there's a lot of layers, but a big part of it's the paperwork. One of the biggest pieces are the house rules, which we've put together to really provide a roadmap for people to live together in community. We found early on, people didn't know how to live together in a family. In fact, our house rules could probably be used in any family. It's things like, no, you can't have visitors over. You can't take someone else's food. If you use the bathroom or the kitchen, you have to clean up after yourself. This is how we share community together. And that's really been a hallmark of our success.
Well, there's a lot to learn here, and I know we're just scratching the surface. You've been kind enough to put together an awesome report called 4 Homes to Freedom, the Shared Housing Formula. What's in the report?
We were thrilled to be able to have the opportunity to take knowledge that we've gained over 6 years of doing this to introduce people to the idea that you can buy single family homes, and 4 would probably provide you with $12,000 to $15,000 a month net income. And when we talk about 4 Homes to Freedom, that means you don't have to have your W-2 job anymore. Your houses can provide the passive income that you need. And in the report, we talk about our journey, about how Kate's experiences led us to say, we've got to change this throughout the United States. Early on, people were suspicious of us whom we housed. They thought we were going to put them out, even though we said that was something we never do. And I remember telling a young mom one time, if I wouldn't have put my own daughter out for making a mistake, why would I do that to you? And that's really been a huge piece of the Kate's House Foundation model, which is now the shared housing formula, is we're going to treat people with dignity. We're going to treat them with respect. We're going to expect them to get jobs, to get an education, to contribute to the community. And when you have expectations of people that are higher, they do rise up. We know this. People ask us, how do you know this? Maybe it's exclusive to Seattle. No, we've housed 600 people. And during the pandemic, we were taking people who literally had been under a tarp the day before, who are now finishing up college. And that's not our usual model. Our usual model is getting somebody who has completed programs in prison and is coming out working. A lot of our people are working in the trades. They're making big paychecks. But during the pandemic, when the city of Seattle said, how many beds do you have? We took every last bed we could, and we brought those people in. And because we were all shut down, we found out about having that 501c3, how important that was. The restaurants were contributing food, people were contributing clothing. We had never done that before because the business model was self-sufficiency, but we became part of a community. We pulled together to do well for our people. We often say when you invest in people, you change the world. And we've changed the world, not just for the people that we've housed, 600 people, their children, their grandparents, their mothers, their fathers. You know, it's this big concentric circle. And now we've spoken about this really to thousands of people over the years. And we know lots of people have used our model because we've coached them and we've taught them how to get around fair housing and how to have that good neighbor policy and how to site that house. What about zoning? And what if we do need to get a zoning variance? How do we do that? And when they go out, they're empowered to do it too.
So the report is called Four Homes to Freedom. The shared housing formula will tell you how you can get your free copy before we're done. Hey, before we let you guys out of here, tell us about the training and the coaching. That sounds fascinating. How does that program work?
Well, like I say, everywhere we go, people, even if we're on an airplane, next thing you know, the captain of the plane and the stewardesses are gathered around us because, again, they have someone in their life. They're fascinated. They want to solve this problem. So we do create an opportunity for us to share with others how they can open up their own home. And I'll tell you why. Sherri and I do want to end homelessness, but we can't do it all ourselves. In fact, that's why we're somewhat selective on who we take into our house. We can't house everybody, but I can guarantee everyone that there is a segment of population that is so ready and so wanting to just have the opportunity to have a quiet, calm place in a safe neighborhood, get their tickets, their problems passed for, and move on. So what we find is when we create opportunities for teaching, a lot of people love to sign up because that's what they want. They want to invest, get a return, but they want to serve fellow human beings.
So when we coach, and we've been doing this for years, is we typically have a 3-day class where we teach people the nuts and bolts of the real estate, the zoning. But one of the biggest pieces is, what is your burning desire? You know, we all have a desire to have a legacy, to make a difference in the world. You know, we want to leave it a better place. You know, because of my background in medicine, I teach a class I call Medical School 101 during the 3 days, where we're sharing with people, these are the medications that people need. And this is the problem of addiction. You know, we often think of addiction being a meth and heroin addict. That's only 12,000 people that typically seek services. There's 12 million people who seek services each year for prescription drugs. And we like using the venue of teaching for parents and grandparents, because when you realize your kids as young as 12 are considered adults and they're being exposed to this in the school, we want to give you the knowledge when you walk away. You know, there is a solution, and these are things you need to talk to your kids about. We're comprehensive. When we have a coaching student, we figure out what assets they have. Do you have a house right now that's a single family rental? Would it be perfect for shared housing? If not, do we want to sell it and find something else? We use analytics. I often say from day one, we've been the lazy investors because we use data and analytics to figure out economics and neighborhoods and how do we best strategically place a home and who do you want to serve? You know, sometimes people will come to us thinking, you know, I want to work with foster kids, but when we talk about foster kids are substance users too. All of these other areas need to be addressed. Let's kind of figure out your burning passion. You know, what is that good neighbor policy? What are fair housing rules? Finance. How are you going to pay for this? You know, SBA. You know, we talk about the Small Business Administration, different ways of funding. And one of the biggest things we talk about, Frank spent 34 years in marketing and branding is how do you brand yourself? We took off like a rocket ship in Washington State because we were branded. We decided we would get that great website. We would get some videos telling our story. And we filed a trademark, which was registered by the USPTO on Case House Foundation and the type of housing we have. And when that skated through the trademark office, we knew we were onto something unique. And, we want people to walk out of our class saying, I have an overview that how I can do this. And I have an overview of what I need to do to get financial freedom, because it is easy to walk into a single family home. We have people doing it on a 3% FHA mortgage. So it's not the big cash outlay. You may already have the home, and we're going to show you how to do that. And as far as coaching, a lot of people want us to hold their hand for a year, and we're up for that too.
Well, that all sounds fabulous. If you're interested in the report and you'll get information about the educational programs, we'll tell you how you can do that when we come back. Frank, Sherri, thanks so much for sharing with us today. This has been fascinating.
Wonderful to be here.
Thank you.
You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Real estate investment advice right in your mailbox. Sign up for the free Real Estate Guys newsletter at realestateguysradio.com.
Registration is now open for the Real Estate Guys 20th Annual Investors Summit. Imagine spending an entire week with like-minded investors, world-class educators, and real-world professionals. Returning in 2022, the editor of the Gold newsletter, Brian London, international real estate developer Beth Clifford, the author of The Creature from Jekyll Island, G. Edward Griffin, Jim Rohn's 18-year business partner, Kyle Wilson, and the rebel capitalist, George Gammon. And joining us live and in person for his 10th Investors Summit, best-selling author and the Rich Dad advisor for real estate, Ken McElroy. Plus lots more to be announced. It all begins June 10th, 2022 in beautiful Belize. Visit realestateguysradio.com and click the tab that says Summit to reserve your spot. Go to realestateguysradio.com, click Summit, and make plans to spend a week with the Real Estate Guys, George Gammon, Ken McElroy, and an all-star faculty on the 20th Annual Investor Summit on Sand.
Hey, ever wished you could go back in time and do some tax planning? Now you can, just like Marty McFly. Lucky for you, a brand new federal law just made this possible with an EQRP to get tax deductions and reduce your taxable income from last year, so you can use that tax savings to invest in real estate, Bitcoin, gold, even your own business. Whether you're a full-time investor, doctor, government employee, even if you have 5 or 50 employees, the EQRP works and is your secret weapon, and now it's retroactive. Hey, I'm Damian Lupo, and we have your solution. By the way, if you got bad advice and used an IRA for an apartment syndication, you are sitting on a U-bit time bomb. But don't worry, there's a solution, the EQRP. The EQRP company is ready to help you get control of your money, kill U-bit, and help you pay way less taxes. Want to learn more about this strategy? Send an email to eqrp@realestateguysradio.com for my special EQRP report. Paying tax or letting Wall Street suck you dry is dumb. Your first step is freeing your retirement money by sending an email to eqrp@realestateguysradio.com today.
Hi, this is Peter Schiff, and you are listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program, now in our 25th year of broadcast. Amazing stuff from Frank and Sherri and shared housing.
Yeah, I love it because people always get enamored of creative real estate, and a lot of times people just think that's about the creative financing side of things, but really the creative use of real estate to solve needs. That's the essence of capitalism. Capitalism really solves problems. And, of course, with our Secrets of Successful Syndication, our syndication mentoring program, Robert, you and I have been about Main Street investing in Main Street since forever. And when you look at creative entrepreneurs who come out and identify a niche and figure out how to use a bread and butter product like single family homes, and it's especially important in a market like this because candidly, single family homes are a little expensive. And you're coming in, you have availability of cheap financing, but still, typical rents aren't going to cover. How do you get more yield out of a single family home and justify that purchase? And this is a way to do it. So I think that that's fantastic. And then on the mentoring side, what these folks are doing, I love. It's the same thing we do. You and I could build a big syndication business on our own, but we're going to have some impact. But when you mentor others, taking what you've already learned how to do, you have a much bigger impact. And you could clearly tell from their passion, their desire is to have a big impact. And when real world practitioners become mentors, that's how they magnify their impact in the world. So super exciting. And then I took a look at this report, and there was a couple of things that really stood out to me. One is who it's for and who it's not for. And it isn't for people who are just about the money. It's for people who really want to make an impact in their entrepreneurship. And I love that. It reminded me of Josh and Lisa Lannon. And then the other thing is they have this top 10 shared housing opportunities. And there's several things in here, veterans and students, and they mentioned foster children, corporate housing, temporary workers. I spent a lot of time in hospitals as my wife was at the end of her life. And I discovered this thing called traveling nurses. And these are people that travel all over the country, and the idea that you could buy a home near a hospital and rent it out on a room basis to traveling nurses, so people who don't mind living together. I mean, that was just one little niche that I thought of. And I think the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So I think the opportunity is huge. The fact that people who actually are doing it in the real world are willing to share their secrets for success. I think the timing in the market is excellent. Super excited about it. So glad that we've got a chance to meet Frank and Sherri, and looking forward to see them develop.
If you're interested in learning more about shared housing, to get the report that Sherri and Frank have put together, all you have to do is send an email to sharedhousing@realestateguysradio.com, sharedhousing@realestateguysradio.com. You'll get the report chock full of ideas, and you'll also be able to find out more about their educational component. Come on out to the Secrets of Successful Syndication. It happens in Dallas, Texas. You get to meet Frank and Sherri and hear their story, because you can certainly invest in shared housing in your own account. You can buy a house, you buy 4 houses, you're done. Or you could raise the capital to do even more, which is exactly what they're doing in their real life. So come on out to that event, get to shake hands with them and hear more about their story. And I hope this whole show really hopefully will help you understand that real estate isn't just something you do on the side to make money. It can be something that helps you live out who you are, create that legacy, do it profitably, and create income for generations to come. So big thanks to Frank and Sherri for sharing their heart, their passion, and their teachings with us. And speaking of sharing, this week we sadly bid adieu to a great friend of ours and a partner of Frank and Sherri's, the amazing Gene Guarino. A great teacher, incredible salesperson, and beloved husband and father, Gene was taken from us far too soon. Our hearts go out to all of his family and friends, and we're comforted by knowing that thousands of seniors and hundreds of real estate investors have a better life today because of the work Gene did. Miss you, buddy. Until next week, go out and make some equity happen.
This episode of the Real Estate Guys radio show is brought to you by Paradigm Life. Powerful cash management strategies using life insurance. Learn more at beyourbank.com. Mid-South Home Buyers. Low-cost, turnkey cash flow properties in Memphis, Tennessee. Corporate Direct. Asset protection strategies for real estate investors. From attorney and rich dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Find these and other great companies under the Resources tab at realestateguysradio.com. To learn how you can expose your product or service to the Real Estate Guys audience, call 888-489-7723 extension 4. That's 888-489-7723 extension 4. Or use the feedback page at realestateguysradio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week right here on the Real Estate Guys radio show.